So once you've used your curve tool to accurately measure your material thickness, we'll use this piece here as an example. So this example piece measures at 0.199 inches. So we're going to take this measurement and we're going to adjust our drawing to fit that measurement. And this will allow us to get a perfect fit on our joints. So here in Corel Draw, we're going to take a look at this example project. And in this example, we're going to show how to resize simple rectangles to allow other material to fit inside of it, and as well as to resize these slots on the side of this project. So let's take a look at the rectangle first. We're going to zoom into that using our scroll wheel on our mouse. And you can see this rectangle here. If we select this, we can now edit the size. And if we come up here to our top panel, we can see our measurements here. We have our width and we have our height here. So in this case, we want to adjust just the height. So on the side here, we have this lock and unlock button here. We want to make sure it's in the unlock position as it is now. This will allow us to adjust only one measurement at a time. So that's what we want to do. So we're going to take our height here and we're going to erase this and enter the 0.199 that we measured using our curve tool. And we're going to click enter. And then you can see down here, the rectangle resized to that 0.199 that we entered. And one thing to also take note of is we use the center position as our anchor point. And that's going to keep the center position here where it's at. If you wanted to keep the top position where it's at, we would use our top anchor point. And if you want to keep the bottom, we use the bottom and so forth. So just select the anchor point where you would like to keep your position at, and that's where it will scale from. So you can see a simple rectangle is pretty easy to resize. Now let's take a look at the slots. So we're going to scroll up here to our slots. Now these are a little bit more complicated to adjust. So to do this, first we have to disconnect these from our outer shape here. Then we have to resize, and then we have to connect them back together. So first, to disconnect these, we want to select our object. And you can either select this icon up here to node edit the shape, or you can double click on the shape, and that'll bring it into this node edit mode as well. So you can see these points here in the corners. These are all nodes. So we want to disconnect the nodes in these corners here. So you can see if you were to grab one of these right now, it would move both lines here. But we want to disconnect these so it doesn't move both lines like that. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. Now with this node here selected, we're going to come up to the top panel here and click this button here where it says Break Curve. So click that, and now you can see if we were to move this, you can see now they're disconnected. So that's what we want to do. So I'm going to undo that to bring it back. And now we're just going to go around and select the ones we want to disconnect, come up to the top, click Break Curve, and then we'll come over here, do the same thing, Break Curve, select this one, and Break Curve. And now all of our corners here are all disconnected. So if we were to go back to our selection mode here, and if you tried to select our disconnected object here and try to move it, you can see it's still connected to the outer shape. So I'm going to undo that to bring it back. So to fully disconnect these, there's one more step we have to do. So we're going to double click on this to go back into the node edit mode. And then I'm going to select one of these nodes here by clicking on it. And we want to come up here to this one here. It's called Extract Subpath. And that's going to extract that shape from the outer shape. So we're going to click that. And now you can see this outer portion here is red. And then the inner portion there is blue. So now these are disconnected. Now we want to do this side over here, but before we can do this side, we first have to go back to our selection mode, and we want to select outside of our shape here to deselect everything. And now we're going to come back over here and double click on this side over here. And now you can see this side over here is no longer selected. So now we're just going to do the same thing, select one of these nodes, come up to the top here and click Extract Subpath. And now you can see this is blue and the rest is red. So now we are fully disconnected. We're going to go back to our selection tool. And if you were to try to select one of these and move it, you can see it still moves it together. So I'm going to undo that. We first have to select outside of our shape here to deselect everything. And now if you come and click one of these, you can see now you can edit this individual shape. So I'm going to undo that. So now we could do this just like we did the rectangle. So at the top up here, we want to adjust our height. And we also want to select where we want the anchor point to be. In this case, I'm going to leave it in the center. But if you wanted to keep the top position, you'd select the top. And if you want to keep the bottom position, select the bottom. So we want to switch our height here. I'm going to erase this and type in 0.199. And that's going to adjust it to the height we want. So I'm going to click enter and you can see that adjusted there. And then we could do the same thing over here. Select this and go to 0.199, click enter. And now our slots are adjusted to fit our material that we measured with our curve tool. So now we have to connect this all back together. So to do that, we can use our virtual segment delete tool to get rid of this overhang here. So I'm going to zoom in here. And up here in the crop section, we want to click and hold with your left mouse button. And then come down here and select the virtual segment delete. And now we can click and drag over our overhang there, and you can see that gets rid of that there. And we can do the same thing down here, get rid of that. And then we scroll out here and come over to the other side. And we'll do the same thing here. And that'll trim away that. I'll also show you if you happen to have your piece where it was smaller down here. All you'd have to do is go into your node edit mode and then click and drag to bring it up. But you can see it won't go in a straight line here unless you hold the shift key on your keyboard, and now it's going to lock it into a straight line. So you want to bring it up past your line there. Doesn't matter how far. Go to your segment delete here and then click and drag over this, and that trims that away. So now if we zoom out here, you can see it looks like it's okay. Everything looks like it's connected there. But if we were to select one of our shapes here, you can see they're still disconnected. So I'm going to undo that. We now have to connect the nodes together. So to do that, we want to select all of our objects by holding our shift key and click on each one. And then we want to come up to object and then come down here to combine. So we'll click this. And now we could see if we move these, they all move together. So I'm going to undo that. But you could see if we go back into our node edit mode by double clicking on the line, you could see they are still disconnected. So right now the shapes are combined together, but the corners are still not connected. So I'm going to undo that one more time. To connect these corners together, we're just going to draw a selection box around these to select both points. And then come up to the top here where it says join two nodes. So select that. And now you can see if we move this, they are now connected together. So I'm going to undo that one more time. So we'll just do that on each corner. Select both nodes. Click join two nodes. Come over here, select both, click join two, select both, join two nodes. And now all of these corners are now connected together and our slots are adjusted to the correct height using our curve tool. Now, one last thing I'll show you is how to add your ohm slot if you wanted to add another slot to your project. So to do this, we're going to use our rectangle tool and we're just going to click and drag about the size we want. It doesn't have to be exact, just any size will do. And then at the top here, we want to adjust to our exact size that we want. So let's say for our width, we wanted a 1/2 inch. So I'll type in 0.5. And then the height, we're going to want 0.199 to match our curve. And then we're going to click enter. And that's going to adjust our size to exactly what we want. Now we're going to go back to our selection tool. And now we want to move our rectangle until it touches the edge of our outer shape here. So to do that, we want to select our rectangle first, hold our shift key, select our outer shape there to select both. And then we're going to come up here to object and then come down here to align and distribute. And then we want to align to the right side. So click align right and you can see that goes right to the right edge there. You can also do the left side or any other side you want. And now with these aligned together, we're going to deselect by clicking out here, select just our slot we just created, and we want to drag this edge slightly past our outer shape there. So now we can trim this away. So to trim this away, we're going to use our segment delete tool again. So we're going to select that tool and we're going to just click and drag around these extra pieces here and that'll trim that all away. And then if we go back to our selection tool, you can see now we are trimmed away, but these are still separated. So we're going to do the same thing like we did down here. I'm going to undo that. Let's select our outer shape as well as our inner shape there. And we're going to go to object and then combine. Now they're combined together. And then double click to edit the nodes. draw a selection box around the corners and click Connect Two Nodes, and do the same thing down here, connect two nodes. And now we can go back to our selection and deselect, and now we have a finished shape here with an added slot.